Now, if you're able to start asking the right questions when talking to a seller, this is going to allow you to understand when the deal is right and when a seller is open to seller financing. Yo, what is up? Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Chris Silva. I specialize in creative finance, structuring deals. For me, on this channel, I want to make sure I deliver the most value I can for you, whether you're just getting started, whether you want to learn how to do more deals, or whether you just want to learn something new. On this channel, I am committed to helping you. And at the same time, I want to bring you along my journey to go out there and build $1 billion real estate portfolio. Now, I can't do it by myself. I can only do it with people like you, like-minded individuals that want to grow, that want to learn. So if you gain something from this video, make sure you make sure you comment down below what you learned and how I could help you. And most importantly, make sure you subscribe to my channel. Let's jump right into it. Today, I'm going to be talking about why a seller would seller finance a deal. Now, this is just one of the many strategies that I use to go out there and buy real estate. Now, a lot of small-minded people will sit here and always tell me, Chris, why would a seller do that? Why would a seller want to become the bank on a deal? Well, this is where it's very important for you to start learning to identify a seller's goals. This is a part that a lot of people miss. 80% of the deal is in building a relationship with a seller. 20% of the deal is how you structure the deal. Now, if you focus on the relationship with the seller, this is going to allow you to learn how to identify somebody's goals. Now, the faster that you're able to identify a seller's goals, the faster that it's going to allow you to learn how to structure the deal. Now, identifying someone's goals, what we always use is the 4 pillars: price, timeline, motivation, and condition. I made a video right here that you guys will be able to click on the 4 pillars, how to identify the 4 pillars. So when you talk to a seller, you got to learn to pretend you're talking to your aunt or your uncle. You got to learn to just have a normal conversation. Use the 4 pillars as where you're able to pivot off of and work backwards to go and see what questions you are asking, if you're asking the right questions. Now, you have to understand, when a seller is selling a property, when somebody is selling a property, it's because they have a problem. Some problems might be bigger than the other. Some people want to sell a property because they want to downsize. Some people want to sell a property because they want a bigger house. Some people might want to sell because they're getting ready to retire. Somebody might want to sell because they can't afford their payments. Somebody might want to sell because they're moving in with their family. Another person might want to sell because they're leaving out of town. They might not need the money up front. So it's very important to identify why a seller is selling. Now, seller finance is typically a seller finance deal is typically somebody that does not need the money right now. Now, if you're able to start asking the right questions when talking to a seller, this is going to allow you to understand when the deal is right and when a seller is open to seller financing. Some of the questions that you might want to be asking your sellers is, well, why are you selling? What's going on? Another question that you could ask is if the house is paid off. Typically, your best seller finance deals are when properties are paid off in full. Now, if a property is paid off in full, it's because they don't owe nothing to the bank. There's no liens against the property. It's free and clear, meaning they're making no payments. Now, Another thing to ask a seller is this a primary residence or an investment? Now, if it's an investment and they were renting it out to tenants, more than likely that seller likes cash flow, baby. Yes, if it's an investment property, they're familiar with cash flows. So the chances of them being open to a seller finance can be even higher than somebody that is selling their primary residence. Now, going back to all of this, is why would a seller want to sell? If you're asking the right questions, you're going to learn why a seller will seller finance. A question that I find very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? A question that I find that seems to give me all the answers all the time is, what do you plan on doing with all this money? Now, most of the time I ask that question, it's going to tell me, one, the person's educated about money, or two, the person's not educated about money. Now, when a seller tells me, well, I'm just going to save the money in my bank, I know they are uneducated about money, because if you got money in the bank, your cash is burning. Your cash is on fire. So somebody that's putting money in the bank just to save, or somebody that wants to put money under their mattress and hold for their kids, guess what? They're not educated about money, and your job as an investor is to educate your sellers, educate the person. You're not here to convince somebody. You're here to educate. You're here to provide options to somebody. So if they're telling me that they plan on saving the money, the kid's gonna go to college, and they wanna put some in the bank, put some underneath the mattress, boom, I have an in. Because now I'm able to educate them on why seller finance will be the best way for them to sell me their property. Here are some of the ways reasons why seller would seller finance you the property. One is they don't need now money. They don't need now money. This is one of the reasons why a seller would seller finance you the deal, is because they don't need the money at this very moment. They have no plans. They don't need to buy anything. They're living good. They're living a good life. They're happy where they're at. They just want to sell because maybe they're a tired landlord. Maybe they're getting ready to retire. They just want to get out of the game. Maybe they're a real estate investor, want out. Cool. They don't need the money now. Now, another reason why a seller might potentially want to sell you a property through seller finance is it allows you to give them the price they want. This is another reason why a seller would be willing to seller finance you a deal, because it allows you to give them the price that you want. There are no banks, there are no appraisals, there is no one coming to dictate what the value of the property is besides you, the buyer, and the seller. Now the value comes based on what you're willing to pay for that property. Typically, this is how I get my deals with zero down payment, because by this simple line, I will give you the price that you want if you give me the terms that I need. Where I'm gonna make my money, guys, is going to be on the cash flow, on the depreciation of the asset. I get those tax advantages, and at the same time, I create the cash flow. So now I'm able to make cash flow, and guess what? Over time, I'm going to make the appreciation. If I get equity in the deal, good, even better. There's equity in the deal. But now going back to the seller finance is I'm able to give you the price that you want if you give me the terms that I need. Those terms are typically I'm going to typically negotiate the terms that I need in order to make this a good deal for me. This is how I'm able to create a win-win situation. I will give you the price you want if you give me the terms that I need. Get that? Learn that, write that down. I would definitely start using that in your conversations. I give you the price you want if you give me the terms that I need. What does that mean? I'm willing to give you that price of whatever the price you're asking for, but I'm gonna ask you for some terms. Now, another reason, and I'll jump into that right now, another reason why a seller would seller finance is they get to defer the capital gains on the property. Now, capital gains is typically paid out when you cash out on a property. Now, since the seller is not getting cashed out and they're becoming my bank, they're not going to pay capital gains on on the property because they technically have yet to receive the full lump sum of money. This is another benefit for a seller and why a seller would allow you to sell or finance a deal is they don't have to pay capital gains on anything they don't collect in the front end. Now, another reason why a seller would sell or finance a deal is because I had it up here on the top of my head. Another reason why a seller would sell or finance a deal is because they hedge against inflation. Now, we all know, and if you don't know, now you know, is if you put money in the bank or you put money underneath your mattress, your money is burning. In order to hedge against inflation, you need to charge interest or you could get a bigger price for your property. So now another reason why a seller would want to sell or finance a property is technically they could hedge against inflation. Instead of, say they sold you a house at $100,000, instead of cashing out that $100,000 and putting it in the bank and losing money on the US dollar or putting it underneath the mattress and the value of that US dollar going down, they can now become your bank and charge you interest, which is then going to allow them to maximize their dollar. They are not going to, it's going to allow them to maximize their dollar in each and every way. Another reason why a seller would sell or finance is no maintenance. I don't know if that's how you spell it. Excuse my spelling. No tenants. No repairs. Now, the perfect person to sell or finance a deal is somebody that is retiring, getting out of the game and wanting to sell their properties because guess what? They like their cash flow, but they might not like the responsibility that comes with the cash flow. Your tenants, your toilets, your termites, and all the other bullshit that has to be done with dealing with properties. Now, they're not responsible for taxes. They're not responsible for insurances. They're not responsible for repairs, rehab, any of that. Guess what? They are the bank. So now you allow them to create a cash flow without dealing with the bullshit on a property maintenance, complaints from the tenants, termites, toilets, all of that other stuff. So this is another reason why a seller would sell or finance you a deal. Now, I'm going to talk about on another video negotiations of seller finance. What are some of the things that you guys can negotiate? If you learned something today, make sure you make sure you follow me on all my social media platforms. Make sure you subscribe. And most importantly, make sure you comment down below what you learned and how I could help you go out there, do more. And if you gain something, all I ask is for you to share this with a friend or somebody that can learn or somebody that's asking you, why would a seller finance you a property? This are some of the reasons why a seller would seller finance you a property.